back. So we want to make kind of a toggle function right here. So when I click this guy, it'll hide the navbar, and when I click it again, it'll open the navbar, just to try and play around with that. And actually use two things, a click event on the button and an output using kind of an event emitter, meaning that we can start listening for events on different components. So let's try and do that this lesson. Now step one is, this is kind of the setup we have right now. We have the side navbar right here in the app component HTML, this guy, and we have the app toolbar right here, which is this guy up here where the button resides. So we kind of need to get access so that this guy can tell us when we click, we need to click our button, and that can then change the mode or make this opened equal false and true. Let me just start out up here because we want to make this into something more Angular-ish. So I'll kind of wrap this in square bracket, explaining that this can be a real value, a TypeScript value, and we'll just add false for now. So right now I set this to false, and what will happen is it'll automatically hide the bar. So when I set this back to true right here, it'll actually show the bar again. There we go. So that's kind of, we need to kind of figure out how to get this value right here to be set to true and false. And again, notice the first change was to kind of get rid of the, add the square brackets here, because if I don't, it thinks this is a string, and then it probably won't work if I start putting in some values from TypeScript directly. But I can still use false and true like this, I guess. Yeah, there we go. But when I start using variables, like if I wanted to use the title variable I have available inside my Angular app right now, let me just try and put in title right here, jump into the app component, and notice right now it's not a boolean, but let's put in true right here as title. Let's see what happens. It's actually shown. Let's try and put in false right here. Let's see what happens. It didn't work. Notice it didn't hide now. So I have to kind of, to start making this work, the first step will be to kind of add some square brackets, meaning that this is a property that I can set on the navbar, right? So let me just try and do that. Now you'll see it hides again. There we go. So now we kind of made a property, but let's not call it this. Let's call it navbar open, something like that. That would be the property name. We'll jump in here as well and call it navbar open, and let's just set it to true for now. So that's kind of the first step. Now we can control on the app component if the navbar is shown like now, or if it's actually hidden like now. There we go. So that's kind of the first step right here, to kind of show and hide it that way. But we wanted to show and hide using the button instead. Now the second step in this, we're going to start using the button so we can click this guy, but we need to kind of start clicking the button in the toolbar, right? So let's jump into the toolbar and see how we add a click event. So right now every button in here already has some events set up for us. One of them is the click event. That's the one we want to use. So I'll just add a small parenthesis here. Notice not the square, but the parenthesis to explain this is a click event. So I can now click the button and do something, right? Now what do we want to do? Well, I want to toggle the nav, right? That's kind of what I want to do when I click the button. So that's what I'm going to call my small click event right here. Let me just start to put this into multiple lines. I just think it's easier to read this way. Let me just add another line here and wrap up the button right down there. Now it's up to you how you want to align this. I just think it's easier. So there we have the toggle nav right here. Let's jump into the TS file and create that method, right? Because we just set up a method, but it complains that it's not defined yet, and that is correct. So jumping into the toolbar component and just adding a toggle bar navbar right here. And there we go. Now we have the method. Now what should the method do? Well, the method should actually inform anybody who wants to listen to the toolbar component that somebody just clicked the toggle button, right? So this is kind of just redirecting the responsibility for clicking the button to somebody from the outside, meaning that somebody who uses the toolbar component, they'll be notified that I just clicked the button, right? How do we do that? Well, we use something called an output. Now this is one of the coolest things, I think, in Angular. So we're going to import this Angular core right here to use the output. Now to the output, we need to kind of first explain what's going to happen, what's the event we want to listen for. And we'll just call it nav toggle like this. So we're just going to call nav toggle. That's going to be the name, and then we'll make a new event emitter. So this is a way for us, again, a way that Angular built for us. Remember to pick the core one right here. This is a way for us, again, to kind of start working with emitters, emitting events to other people who wants to listen. I'll show you how this works in a second, the entire setup. We need to remember parentheses right here as well, or else it won't accept this as an output. There we go. Now we have the nav toggle, and I always write it like Google. It needs to be nav toggle with a double G, not nav Google with a double O. So nav toggle right here, there we go. Now the next thing we need to do is whenever I click the button, click, right? So when I click this guy, click, it's going to call this function in here. boop, and that function, beep, is going to say this nav toggle emit, right? So it's going to emit to anybody who's listening that something happened. So think of this as a way to make a listener, right? So now I'm listening for events. I can listen for events from the outside saying, when you click the button inside the toolbar, I want to listen. Why do you want to listen? Because I need to do something when you click the freaking button. I want to change the value, meaning that right now when I click this button, click, click, I want to change the value here. That's what I want to do. Sweet. So now we have kind of set this up. Now the toolbar component exposes a way so that I can listen for events from the toolbar. Now we're going to use that one. So we go back to the app component and notice instead of having a click event in here, we're going to have a new event on the, oh, that wasn't the one, sorry. Let's just new line that anyway. We're going to have a new event on the toolbar actually right here. So let's just new line the toolbar. We're going to have a new event called nav toggle. The name nav toggle is the same name as the one we put as the output right here. You have to know that. This name right here is the same name that's now available inside the app component HTML. Sweet. So now let's actually do a toggle here. So we'll just say toggle nav like this, toggle nav. And now we of course need this method inside the app component TypeScript file, right? Because we just, when we click this button now, it'll send an event into the toolbar component, and that will actually send an event to whoever listens, and we listen now to this method, which is inside the app component now. So that's where we're going to make a new function right here, just called toggle nav. And what does it do? It pretty much just takes the navbar and sets it equal to the reverse part of what the navbar is right now. And yes, I know I need the this keyword. Always forget that one, but it's there now. There we go. So that's all we had to do. Now we can actually start toggling if we want to show or hide the navbar in the left side of our application. Let's try and see if it works. Show, hide, sweet! That's all we had to do. See you in the next lesson. I know this was kind of long, but I wanted to show it all before we actually end this lesson. See you next time. Have fun.